Hello there, Commonwealth from here. We're days away from the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2, and let's just say the power of this system brings so many new possibilities to Nintendo's biggest and even smaller IPs, plus the 2 beefy for Switch third-party games. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell. We recently discussed how the next Zelda game could look on Switch 2 with visuals similar to the 2011 Wii U tech demo, only in 4K and potentially 60 frames per second. Though truth to be told, the potential is much higher than slightly above PS3 or Xbox 360 level. While docked, the Switch 2 is more powerful than the mid-gen upgrades of these. And with Nvidia's deep learning super sampling, we're getting really close to the Xbox Series S. We will soon get back into how, but on the graphics front for games like say the next open-air Zelda, we're more likely to see the next Link running, riding, or sailing in visuals more akin to these open world gems, in chronological order.
The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which is 10 years old but still a beauty. Assassin's Creed Odyssey with its mighty ancient Greek mainland and islands, Red Dead Redemption 2, one of the best looking games of the previous generation, Ghost of Tsushima, and Elden Ring. The first and last here have seen fans even adding a playable Link, as the setting is too fitting with the world of Hyrule. But Zelda has many different options to go for, though before we go back to those, let's explore what the specs inside the system really provide. Officially revealed by Nintendo with discoveries and performance tests provided by outlets like Digital Foundry and Geeker. Based on these, we will look at how upcoming Switch 2 games will utilize the system's capabilities and theorize what other games we could see on the platform. First, the official tech specs listed on Nintendo's website, which typically don't give us much. The CPU and GPU are simply listed as a custom processor made by Nvidia. Fortunately, Digital Foundry came out with a video detailing the confirmed specs of the Switch 2, getting down to the nitty-gritty of that custom Nvidia processor. The CPU being an ARM Cortex-A78C with 8 CPU cores, 6 available for games and 2 reserved for the system OS. Then there are the 12GB of RAM, 3 reserved for the OS, which leave 9GB for games. More than the Xbox Series S. Good news for the next open-air Zelda for sure. The clock speed operates at 1100 MHz in portable mode and 998 MHz docked. The increased speed in portable mode might help make up for the dropped memory bandwidth, although that's just a theory. Next is the GPU, which has 1536 CUDA cores and uses Ampere architecture used in Nvidia's RTX 3000 series graphics cards. For comparison's sake, Switch 1 used the Maxwell architecture found in the GTX 900 series cards.
These numbers are good and all, but how do they work when tested against other machines? This was answered by Geeker1, who got a hold of a Switch 2 motherboard and the T239 custom system on chip to simulate its performance against other GPUs and CPUs via benchmarking. Here's the simulated Switch 2 GPU in handheld mode, outperforming the simulated PS4 GPUs, and landed just under the Steam Deck. The simulated Switch 2 GPU in handheld mode landed above the Apple M1 and A18 Pro chips, but below a simulated Xbox Series S. As for CPU performance, the simulated Switch 2 was about the same docked and handheld, performing 66% below the Steam Deck, but nearly 600% above the Switch 1, which is what really matters. And it is much more powerful than a PS4 processor. And need we remind you that PS4 is home to some of the best looking games of all time. If that doesn't put into perspective, I don't know what will. Next on the menu, VRR, or variable refresh rate, up to 120Hz. This ensures the screen's refresh rate stays in line with the game's frame rate to avoid screen tearing, a visual error that causes the image to look broken up like this. Sadly, a Nintendo spokesperson confirmed that Switch 2 only supports VRR in handheld mode, so on the display, and there are no plans at this time for this feature coming to the dock and our TVs in the future. This is a major bummer for us with 120Hz or above TVs, so unless the game in question maintains a stable 120 frames per second on TV to prevent screen tearing, we are going to have a problem. But with some of the specs in mind, let's have a closer look at some of the games already confirmed for Switch 2, and we might as well focus on Mario Kart World, since it, with Donkey Kong Bananza, could be a taste of the next 3D Mario. In particular if that one, after Bowser's Fury, ends up going the open world route.
We already knew some things about the game from Sungrand Studios, who showed from the first trailer that it's using physically based shaders that take into account reflections from the environment. It also uses true volumetric lighting, fog, and high quality textures you couldn't possibly see on Switch 1. Definitely not in a big open world racing game. Since then, we've found out the game runs at 1440p when docked and 1080p in handheld, both at 60 FPS as expected. There have been rumblings of a 120 FPS mode, like in the case of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond's performance mode, but nothing confirmed by Nintendo yet. The most important part of this all is that the game has a giant, interconnected world. You simply couldn't run something like this on Switch 1 without serious compromises. Next, we have another launch title, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition, the first Switch 2 game confirmed to be using NVIDIA DLSS, which will ensure high-resolution visuals and steady performance. Speaking of, the game will support a 40 FPS performance mode when docked. It's not 60, but smoother than 30. And we have over 40 minutes of footage to back it up. I guess we shouldn't be surprised after seeing what CD Projekt Red and Saber Interactive put into The Witcher 3 on Switch. Let's continue with Donkey Kong Bananza, a game that on the surface looks identical to Super Mario Odyssey on Switch 1, likely being developed by the same team. However, what this game has that Odyssey doesn't are completely destructible environments. There's almost nothing in Bananza that can't be crushed or thrown by DK's gargantuan ape hands. Destructible environments of this scale require a lot of power, something Switch 1's underpowered Tegra X1 chip doesn't have. So it's great to see the developers take full advantage of Switch 2's more than capable GPU and CPU. The next game is an interesting one, Street Fighter 6, as YouTuber SwitchPlay discovered that it actually looks better on Switch 2 docked than Xbox Series S. But wait, isn't Switch 2 less powerful than a Series S? Well, that's where DLSS comes in, as the Series S doesn't support Nvidia's impressive upscaler. Still, for other games, Series S versions will look better than Switch 2, since some games could be more technologically advanced than others and would require more work beyond upscaling to port.
Finally, there's Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, which was focused on in the final pre-launch installment of Nintendo's Creators Voice series. The most eyebrow-raising part of this video was the brief clip showing the game run at a targeted 60 frames per second, all do not stand out from the Switch 2 edition of Tears of the Kingdom. Of course, Switch 2's power will allow more enemies to appear on screen, but that wouldn't matter if it didn't run at a high frame rate, which is extremely important in a Warriors game, and was missed in Age of Calamity. Speaking of, can we get a 60 frames per second patch for that game, like Echoes of Wisdom and Link's Awakening? While these Switch 2 games look and run fantastically, we're more curious about what we don't know, namely how will future first-party games look on Switch 2. Imagine a 3D Mario game that looks pretty darn close to the movie, with advanced lighting and reflections, HDR, ray tracing, you name it. Even then, we would still be happy with a game that looks similar, or slightly better than Donkey Kong Bananza. What about Super Smash Bros? 12-player Smash after 24-player Mario Kart? Okay, 12 players, that might be overkill. But maybe a 120 frames per second performance mode. Oh, but imagine how beautiful the next Animal Crossing would look, with lush green pastures, gorgeous lighting and extremely high texture fish. We already know Nintendo games will look perfect on Switch 2, but what about third-party ones? All signs point to a massive influx of third-party support within the system's launch, adding to Elden Ring, Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, and others. And thanks to Street Fighter 6, we theorize that if a game can run well on an Xbox Series S, then it can run on Switch 2, much thanks to its support of DLSS.
One game that comes to mind is Microsoft Flight Simulator. Demanding? Yes, but again, it runs on Xbox Series S, so getting it to run on Switch 2 would be a technical showcase for the ages. Keeping things locked to Xbox published games, how about Oblivion Remastered? Skyrim did very well on Switch with the Breath of the Wild Link set, so it would make sense to keep Elder Scrolls with Zelda items. Then there's Doom the Dark Ages, which could present a challenge for Switch 2 as this game runs entirely on ray-traced lighting, which is extremely demanding. Thankfully, it's on the optimized id Tech 8 engine, which still makes a Switch 2 port feasible, but at 60 FPS? Probably not, since we need to face it, games constantly get more technically demanding. Think GTA 6, Elder Scrolls 6, and Witcher 4. Still, GTA 6 is being optimized for consoles, including Series S, so call me crazy, but I could see this game release on Switch too. The Witcher 4, however, had its in-engine trailer pre-rendered on a $2,000 RTX 5090, not inspiring confidence in a Switch 2 port. More dated though realistic options are a 60 FPS version of Red Dead Redemption 2, since the first game is already on Switch, and the upcoming remake of Witcher 1. Either way, let's finish, as promised, with Open Air Zelda. Since this franchise, apart from Monolith Soft's next game, will define what the system is truly capable of. But to do that after Breath and Tears' Hyrule, we need visuals and mechanics that will once again blow us away. Something more detailed and realistic with that anime flair.
I want to come with a bold claim before we enter the 40th anniversary of Nintendo's most prestigious franchise. An open-air title that will give Red Dead Redemption 2 a run for its money, but when it comes to its visuals, but also real-world realism, since RDR2 is a master of the latter in its wild and more urban settings. Plus, with no new 3D castle town in 20 plus years, by the time of the next open-air Zelda game, a big town the size of, or slightly bigger than Saint Denis in Red Dead Redemption 2 would be welcome. Add to that even better dungeons plus solid storytelling in the present, and we are looking at the best Zelda, perhaps even the best game ever. So to support and spread that message, be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell for more Nintendo Switch 2 goodness. Last but not least, a big thanks to all of you and all our patreon.com/comearound patrons, with special shoutouts to Raw producer JC Funk and heroes Cheryl, Garrett Hoy, Holly Wolf and Kintar. You all rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.